Right, that should be working. Fingers crossed.
Super. Evening, guys. Thanks once again joining us on Saturday evening to talk all things Mantrailing Spaniels. You exciting bunch Saturday evening. I hope you've got a cup of tea or a wine in hand. And we've got the wonderful Rosalie here tonight to talk about her journey Mantrailing with Spaniels. She's an INBTI assistant instructor and has been Mantrailing for quite a while. So what I'm going to do is just hand straight over to Rosalie. Rosalie, could you introduce yourself, your Spaniels, and tell us about your Mantrailing journey?
Yep, so I'm Rosalie, or Rose, people know me as. As Catherine said, I've been trailing for 6, maybe coming up 7 years now. So I live in South Wales near Swansea. I have 3 spaniels, 2 springers, and a stalker, but he didn't get the springer memo, sorry. Yeah, so I do a bit of trailing with all of them. But Ziggy, my eldest springer, is my main Mantrailing dog.
And what actually got you into trailing to start with, Rosalie? Why did you choose Mantrailing as your activity or your hobby?
So I started off in doggy daycare, and there I was introduced to all different disciplines of dog training. So I come from a hospitality background, so it was all completely new to me. So initially I was introduced to scent work, and then through a scent work instructor, she told me a little bit about Mantrailing. At the time, there was only 2 other Mantrailing instructors in Wales. So it was very new then, and they lived an hour to 3 hours away. So yeah, it was brand new in this area. So I thought, wow, that's really exciting. Something new to offer to the area. So I went up and done an introduction session with her. Loved it, hooked instantly, couldn't stop thinking about it. And yeah, it just went from there, really.
And was Ziggy your first dog?
Yes. Yeah, so Ziggy is yeah, so I done my introduction with Ziggy, and yeah, he's been my main man ever since. He absolutely loves it. He's, I would say, my best Mantrailing dog. But yeah, it's just something that we just adore together, and it's the only thing that I've really held interest in, because I flicked in and out of different bits and bobs. We do a bit of scent work, a bit of detection stuff, but the Mantrailing is my game. Yeah, I love it.
Super. How did you how did you get, so obviously you started Mantrailing. Was it Mantrailing initially with the kind of Kocher method, or did you kind of build into it from more knowledge? What's the kind of journey with that for us?
Yes. So it was a Mantrailing UK instructor that I went to, and she showed me the Kocher Method book. So went straight home and downloaded the Kindle version, and I thought, wow, I need to find more information about this. Was looking on YouTube, was looking online, and back then there was nothing at all. So I found the INBTI website, which is listed on the Kocher Method book, and I emailed a couple of the European instructors. One of them got back to me, and that was the lovely Monica Diaz in Spain. And she invited me over to Lleida for a seminar there. And there I met Kevin Pertle. And yeah, so I spent a few days over there for their seminar. And then I asked them if they would come to Wales and do some training over here to introduce it to my very, very new group of Mantrailers. And it's just gone from there, really. I think I've done five seminars now with Monica over the years. And
oh wow,
yeah, so we've had other instructors over from the US, and which is great, you know, because it's they're all very open to sharing their knowledge, and especially here in Wales, or well, in the UK, there is no INBTI instructors. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and change that. And so worked really, really hard and became the first UK assistant instructor last summer. So it's progressed in the way that I wanted it to. And we now have a handful of people who are interested in becoming INBTI instructors or are doing their books for it and doing their training for it. So Aideen in Ireland should hopefully be starting up with that soon, and we've got Sean in Wales as well. So it'll be really, really good to get more of an INBTI network in the UK.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool, Rosalie. Like, get to it. I know it's not an easy journey to get into like that assistant stuff, and it's not one of these courses that accepts lots of people. It's a lot of hard work in the background for you, and a lot of working it's a lot of travel and working with people that are already doing it. There's a lot of work from you to get there. So what is it about the INBTI method and the Kocher Method the INBTI book, but the Kocher Method that resonated with you as a spaniel owner and as an instructor?
So what I really liked about it was that, well, as I said, it's like it was really, even though it's like how to police bloodhound, it's you don't have to have a bloodhound to use the method. I like the way that the components are broken down, and the way that they are adapted into everyday life. I like the clarity of the method. I feel like it's easy to digest and then apply from the book. And then when you trail with instructors as well, everyone, because they follow this method, there's a lot of similarity in the training. So it's good structure, it's good routines. Every INBTI seminar you go to should have fairly similar structure to it, but then everyone has their own kind of quirks and ideas and things that they've picked up on their own. And so everyone's really happy to share that. Intensities, I know it's a little bit of unpopular opinion with some people, but I love intensities. We never stop doing intensities as long as they are set up correctly. They're fantastic. And if you're introducing new components and just keeping it fun for the dog, they can do hard trails, they can do really tough trails, but it should be fun too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's absolutely a place for intensities, and it's talking about your kind of journey with your spaniel, and it's so for you, obviously use intensities and stuff to build those components. How do you do working with spaniels? So obviously spaniels can be a little bit high arousal, a bit high chaos. So how do you find working with the method and your knowledge to have success for spaniels? That's what we're here for. We're talking about spaniels tonight and building success. So tell us how it works for you.
So the most important thing, intensities, they don't need to be crazy. You don't need to be waving things around in front of the dog, getting them jumping at you. An intensity doesn't need to be mad, So we set them up in a way, or I set them up in a way for my dog where it's all very calm. I stand over the top of one of my dogs because he allows me to do that, to reduce movement, basically, because if there's too much movement at the start, then that ramps him up. And having the runners nice and calm, and also not letting the dog be able to watch them leave. So the intensities are set up for all the dogs, but it's really beneficial for the spaniels. So they're set up in a way that there's very, very minimal eyesight, like visual for the dog, because if they see that movement, then that's going to ramp up, and then you've got prey drive, and you want the hunt drive. So yeah, but it's keeping it calm. And if I go nuts, I mean, it's not just on the intensity start. Sometimes a little bit of a backstory, Ziggy was diagnosed with Addison's disease in January. So now he's having monthly electrolyte injections. So he feels amazing, but he's wild. So his new thing is to just launch himself at me just randomly, biting my arms and things like that. So we're working to level it out. Yeah, he's like a 7-year-old puppy at the moment. So I feel like I'm learning to trail a whole new dog. So yeah, it's all about keeping him very, very calm. So stroking him, like nice, long, smooth body movements, trying to keep him as still as possible. And if I feel like he's too crazy at the start, then we just wait and we calm it down and we calm it down. And to be honest, I haven't ever really run into mega problems with the dogs being too wired from intensities, because we really try to structure each trail around the specific dog. So before the dog comes out, that conversation should have already taken place, really, what that dog needs before they've even come out of the car. But yeah, just keeping it calm. Intensities, even though the word kind of makes you think like bonkers, crazy, wild, it doesn't need to be like that. If you set it up in the right way, then they're really beneficial, really, really beneficial. And yeah, like I said, we always use them. We rotate through the different starts, but intensities are just there to give them that real good feel good factor, you know. Like they can do hard trails, they can do only center article starts, but you need to go back sometimes, you know. I think in other disciplines, like with detection and things like that, people will still take them back to like focus walls and things like that for motivation as well. So I think it's the same principle for that, really.
I think it's also sort of definitely leads into like foundations there, doesn't it? That sort of coming across and sort of having that nice baseline so that the handlers kind of know what they're doing, or at least know and have a goal of what they're aiming towards in terms of what we're doing and in terms of man trailing, but also that sort of they've got a structure and you're building a really strong, nice, confident dog that's able to think, that's able to focus, and that's able to do the job that we're asking it to do without any kind of external factors. And that's what sort of it kind of leads on then, doesn't it, to foundational work. And that sometimes with a spaniel, I've seen a lot of spaniels are quite natural to pick up the game, and therefore you're often sort of, you almost kind of want to push them on a bit too quick sometimes, or that you feel like they could move quicker than they possibly should through the whole process because they're just such natural trailers. Do you find that with the spaniel handlers that come with you and with your own dogs as well? And
yeah, definitely. And I think because they are so fast and they like to think for themselves, it is easy to think they're ready for something a bit harder before they are, you know. And we see that when you do kind of ramp up the difficulty and they either go to pieces or they switch off and find something else to do. But yeah, it's really, you do need to really carefully manage them, because I think spaniels are very good at saying, I've got this, when maybe they haven't quite got it yet. We're not quite there yet. And again, going back to like the speed, because they're so fast, I think we're worried that they're going to get bored or that they're going to switch off. But they just like to be fast all of the time, even if even if it's a trail like around the corner. They still love it because everything's brilliant with that spaniel, isn't it? life is amazing. Being alive is amazing. So
Yeah, they've just got such a zest for life, haven't they? It's just like I think sometimes we need to all be more spaniel.
definitely, definitely. And that is why I have spaniels, because they are just so much fun. And they, yeah, like you say, we could all be more spaniel. And when we're walking down the street, people will say, oh my God, you must be mad. I bet your house is chaos. It's not. They're lovely to live with. They're really, really chill dogs in the house. But when you want them to do something, they will go and go until you need them to stop. And that's what I like. They've got that on switch, but you can turn it off as long as you're giving them the outlet that they need, so that they don't go looking for their own things to do.
Self-employed spaniels.
And that's why training is so good for them, because essentially it is a form of hunting. Unfortunately for them, we are being lugged along at the other side, when really I think they would much prefer it if we weren't involved. But we need to keep them safe. So yeah, that's why I love training spaniels, because like you said, Jolene, it's very natural for them to do. It is, and you see them working and you can just imagine them out hunting, you think, wow, like, yeah.
And I think once you get to a certain sort of stage in your training journey with your spaniel as well, where you're feeling a bit more confident with reading your dog, you've got your line handling sort of, you've got it kind of a bit more down. Like, I don't think you'll ever get it down, because I trailed mine yesterday and I was all over the bloody shop. But like, so you've got bits and pieces of your trailing journey all sort of in together, and then you just get that moment where you and your spaniel are just hunting through the woods together, trying to find your trail layer.
Yeah.
And for me, what keeps me hooked is just that joy and that bond that the spaniels naturally have, and like a lot of other dogs have it. But for me, I find it quite a lot for, I get really passionate about spaniels because I just think there's not enough knowledge out there about them and about how they trail and about how their natural instincts are going to kick in. But then I also get really passionate about the dogs that maybe aren't so confident. And then you have, the ones that you have like real breakthroughs with, like the spaniels that aren't always sounding every environment and stuff like that. And do you find sort of that the spaniels that you work with are really varied? Or do you get quite a lot of high drive spaniels? Or
For me, it's, you kind of get one or the other. They're either extremely timid or up for anything. I feel like there's not much in between with them, but they are always so willing to please. I think it doesn't, like, even if they are very nervous or very timid or like environmentally aware, then they still want to do it. And you can see they'll be creeping along, worried that something's going to jump out on them, but they'll still do it, and they never give up. And that I love that about them. They never ever say, no, do you know what? I can't do it. If you want me to do it, then we'll do it. And that's really nice. There's always a great bond with spaniels. And you find that the ones that are timid do come out of their shells quite quickly when you're trailing them. Again, as long as it's managed well and those discussions have been had about how to set the trail up and what happens when they find the trail layer, supporting them along the way. It doesn't take long for them at all, because they're so smart. They soon learn, okay, this is a safe space. Mum or dad, whoever is with me, that lady's staying over there, and no one's gonna like overwhelm me. I think they think a lot, and sometimes they overthink things, all of them. And so I think we always joke that everyone should trail a spaniel at least once in their life, just for the experience, because I don't think they trail like other dogs.
Absolutely not.
Whether they're wild or not, their indications and, like you say about line handling, they love to just chuck a circle in when you're not expecting it, or they'll just start off in a different direction towards it. They're so fast, and you always have to try and be one step ahead of them. And sometimes before you've even processed what they've done, they're already moving on to the next thing. Like they're for a negative and you think, right, I need to move back now, but they've already done it and they're on to the next junction. And you're like, oh my God.
You're like, give me a minute.
Yeah, but that's what makes it so much fun, I guess. Yeah.
We were trailing today and we said that it would be awesome if we could have a note taker that came along, that travelled behind us while we were training our spaniels, and we could go, head knock to the left, just note that down for me, and like, yeah. So somebody else to sort of travel along behind you to sort of watch all the things that were going on in case you missed them, and to sort of take notes of them, because sort of we want to be watching and observing these dogs, and that's what probably makes it so hard for spaniel owners and spaniel cross owners to read them, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, because they're so fast. And I think that's when you'll run into the majority of your problems then, because if you don't react quickly enough to what they're showing you, for example, if they give you a negative and you don't react to it, they will then either push on because you're still facing that way, or they'll go and look for something else to do, or they'll switch into searching because that means that they can keep moving. So yeah, you do have to be very, very aware of what you're doing and what your position is on the trail. I don't see it as much with other breeds, like this switching to searching, and it usually is because the handler hasn't reacted quick enough to some kind of communication that the spaniel is offering. I don't know if you find that.
Yeah, absolutely. The dog has given you 16 negatives, but you're busy trying to stay upright, and then it's gone, well, I found a squirrel. So how do you work with teams then to build that kind of them understanding? Is there things that you use and knowledge that you pass on to try and get spaniel people to read the spaniel? I feel like it's like a magical knowledge that
yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time behind people saying negative, look, did you see that head flick? Did you see this? Just trying to reiterate everything that the dog's doing, because I think it's only once you hear it, then you can say, oh yeah, I did see that. And then you slowly build that. So yeah, I'm always behind people saying, negative, that was a negative, step back, step back, step back. So as soon as the dog gives a negative, you go back in the direction you came. Couple of steps, because if the dog gives you a negative and you stay facing in that position and you stop still, they stop, or they in all directions, and then your lines everywhere, and it's chaos, and you just and the dog's head's gone, you've gone to pieces because it's all gone to pot. So yeah, as soon as you see a negative, head up, half moon, those kinds of actions, then just move back a couple of steps. Another thing that we find really helpful as well is keeping some tension in your line. So I know some people like to have a big smiley line, but it's a great way of communicating with the dog, because if you're not sure if they are still on the trail, if they've freight trained and you've just gone, we're going, and then all of a sudden you think, actually, are we sure? So just a little bit of tension in that line. We say, ask your dog. So usually when you get that little bit of tension, if they are sure, they'll push into it. If they're not, 9 times out of 10, they'll give you a negative and they'll come back then. So that, I think, has been really, really helpful, because I think sometimes the speeds that they go at, they can't slow themselves down, and if you're running along behind them, you'll end up in the next town, because it's just, we're going fast and that's all I can do in this moment. So yeah, bend your knees, lean back, get a bit of tension in your line. Yeah.
No, that's a really good tip, I think, for people with spaniels, because they spend so much time moving quite quickly. They don't feel the dog, they're just moving with them, and to maintain that tension and maybe just add a little bit more pressure to go, hey, are you on the trail? They say they lean forwards and go, yes I am, leave me alone, or they go, oh no, they've lost it about 40 minutes back that way.
And brilliant, we'll go back and we'll start off. So yeah, because the spaniels, they go so fast, sometimes you see people and they just drop the whole line out, and then the dog runs out, and then it gives a negative, and then it's under the dog's legs, and then they've gone around a lamppost, and then you've gone like 2 feet from your starting point, and you're tangled up already. So it's hard. Line handling should be a sport of its own, I think, with a spaniel.
If long line gremlins could just sod off, that'd be wonderful. Spaniel owners just get gremlins all over the lines, and I think you can practice it all you want, but practicing at speed around a lamppost is hard work. It's a skill. Line handling is a serious skill.
Definitely a
I do
skill
think
as well.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, it's definitely a skill, and one that I really sort of push to clients as well, because if it becomes muscle memory, and we're able to manage our line appropriately for our spaniels, like, it's not always going to be perfect, but if we can take the focus off of trying to handle them, then we've got more options of then reading them, haven't we? Which then gives us sort of, it kind of frees up an element of our trailing. I find clients with myself are either worried that they're not handling appropriately and concentrating more on their line, and then sometimes not worried about what their dog's doing and what it's saying, because they're all in a tangle and in a mess. And like you said, if that happens and you're trying to run a trail with the dog and instruct, it just makes it difficult for the spaniels to then complete their tasks, and then you can get frustration as well, can't you? Like with the accidental line checks, or being caught round stuff. Like, we've all been there, where you've got wrapped around a tree, and then, like you said, they've made a decision that it's not there, but because you've been wrapped around a tree, I find a lot of clients miss those ones because you've got wrapped around something, don't you? So like for me, I always try and push clients to become sort of that your line handling's more muscle memory. Would you think the same as well? Or
yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can only really master through practice. But we do a lot of urban trailing. I love urban trailing. We train a lot of contamination, and I think when you've got that kind of environment for the dog, so in an urban environment especially, you haven't got trees to contend with, and you can really watch what the dog is doing, I think, when you've got that, because I think with a spaniel, if you've got them in the woods or you're trailing across fields, this kind of ramps up that hunting instinct, and I find that they are more they cover a lot more distance and a lot more quickly when they've got the opportunity to do that. So in an urban environment, you have to be very careful about where the dog is going and how long your line is. So people are less likely to just drop the whole line if you're in a town centre, and because there's people moving past and there's dogs moving past and pushchairs and things like this, they have to be quick to bring it back in and bring it back out. So I think that is kind of throwing people in at the deep end, but it's a great way to practice it, because you haven't got a choice really, or you're going to wrap up a stranger and then it's all going to go wrong. But yeah, I do think the muscle memory is definitely, you are right in that. But yeah, it's practice.
think urban areas definitely make you a better handler.
You have to be aware of a lot more, and I know that some people find them quite difficult because there's so much going on that you need to be aware of. I mean, it's lovely to get your spaniel out and trailing across a big open field, and you can really see them working as naturally as they possibly can be on a long line. That's beautiful to watch when you've got that whole line out. But for focus, for you being able to read your dog, having them, because they're a little bit closer in an urban environment as well, I think you process more of those indications, and yeah, you've got more awareness.
The lovely Monica Diaz has logged on as well, so she's watching.
Hi, Monica.
So is there anything sort of that you see as a common theme coming up with either that your own dogs when you've been trailing, or common themes with clients' dogs that come to you, and sort of spaniels and spaniel crosses, sort of anything more than we've sort of touched on so far?
So I know we've discussed searching a little bit. Something that I found really useful for that, or if the dog is getting too ramped up on the trail. I don't know if you've experienced this, but you have a lovely start to the trail, and then you're going along and you think, right, this is going brilliantly now, and then the dog is going, and then all of a sudden they're just bolting. So they've got to Ziggy started doing this now, which is really helpful, but actually just bringing the dog in and stopping them on the trail, just calm down. Like I said at the beginning of the trail, doing those long strokes. Actually, Chris Boyd, we discussed this at our last seminar, and she said you can stop the dog and just calm him down and then start again. And it was brilliant. Like it works wonders, because they can't self-regulate when they've gone into that high arousal zone, you know. So sometimes you do have to, because people, I know they say, I don't want to help the dog, they should be doing it themselves. But if they're in that kind of higher arousal state, they're not actually trailing anymore. So you either need to stop completely or calm them down, I think. But yeah, that's worked really well for us. Just take a deep breath, lets you get yourself together as well, which is really important, because I think if you are, as a handler, if you're stressed, you're going to miss things as well. You're not going to be taking in the information that you need to. And having a good flanker is really, really important as well. Like you said about the note taker going along behind you, having someone that can read the dog to help you when you get into these sticky messes, so you can kind of backtrack and discuss what they've seen, if there's anything that you've missed, then to be able to support the dog into going back and hopefully recovering that trail.
That's awesome. Can I just swing you back, Rosalie? So when you talk about stopping dog on trail, which I think is brilliant with a spaniel, I think definitely just pausing and going, can we just come back down to earth? Would you have a pause, obviously stroke the dog into the calm, when they're ready to go? Would you reset them and then go, or would you just then give a trail command? Would you give what would be, how would you restart them after that?
So I wouldn't resent them because they don't need it, basically. In my experience, I don't think that they need it. I don't use my trailing cue. I say get to work, and he knows that means carry on. So we practice a lot of stops and starts anyway, because we have to cross roads and things like that. So he does already have a wait, and then he has a release, which is usually get to work. So I think having those cues already in place is really helpful, because if you're just pulling the dog's line to stop them and then saying, oh, trail on, then they're like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. And then they're more likely to want to keep pushing on. But having that stop and go signal, I think is really beneficial. Monica actually had a really good point in our last seminar. So when you are restarting the dog, you want to try and time it so that they are facing the trail or where they were last showing interest. So if you've stopped the dog and they were showing interest on the right hand side, if they're now facing the left hand side and you ask them to work, they're likely to go off into that direction. So just try and really watch their head, so that just setting them up for success, really. Yeah.
So the building blocks for that, to be able to stop your dog when they're losing their mind, is practicing some weights and then carrying on with the trail, and building in that it's okay for the dog to stop. It's not, they're not seeing it as a correction or I've finished the trail. It's just sometimes we just stop, we do weird things, and then we go again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, it's so different for asking them to wait to cross the road, or for if you've got an off-lead dog flying towards you that you think this isn't going to end very well, or we're going to get tangled up, or something's going to happen. You're going to ask your dog to stop, and you're going to get them to the side of you. I think most people would do that. So for me, it's no different to that. Yeah, it's not a correction. You're not telling them off. You're not saying,
it's just to build clarity and saying, understand before people go, oh, I've got a spaniel that's over-aroused, I've got to stop it on the trail. No, there's this preemptive to suddenly stopping a dog that doesn't understand being stopped, which is awesome. I think it's a really important skill, especially for spaniels, to learn that sometimes we need to stop, mainly because we're stuck around a tree. You will throw yourself under a car, darling, and no, we don't need to jump off that large cliff or side of castle if your name's Captain, and you need to just focus, which I think is a really nice thing for them to be able to do. And for the handlers, if they're getting a bit like, I can't read this dog, the world's ending, I'm having a moment, like, okay, so everybody just stopped, let's have maybe a drink and gin or otherwise, and then start again. But also, like I say, making it important the dog's then facing the trail and all the point of last interest, so that you're giving them success to go back on. I think, especially in Spaniel's sake, because if you go, oh, work on, they go, oh, there's a squirrel over there, I've been watching for 5 minutes, you haven't noticed. You need to, which is obviously bringing it in with a flanker going, the dogs may have just spotted something else. The bunnies just crossed their path. Just watch when you ask them, they may enter bunny zone. So that's really good.
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant for us, because like I said about Ziggy, and he's like bouncing off the walls now because he feels amazing. And it's hard when, like you say, because they do trail fast anyway and they are strong. Sometimes by the time you realise that actually we're just freight training here, you've gone quite a way off, and you're like, where's my negative? So I think it's been really, really useful tool for myself and my clients who have spaniels as well. And then reset.
It's really useful. I know it's something I did with Captain, because he used to be high drive. I'd end up stopping more so to untangle myself more than anything. But he'd just sit there and go, all right, we'll just stop for a minute while you do what you need to do. And it was, unbeknown to me, actually quite calming for him. Didn't think of it at the time, but now you're saying it, it's kind of like, actually, that's a really good thing for these dogs that might be on cloud cuckoo land. As a way to just...
a nice way to, so that they know that they're not being line checked as well. So if they do snag something or they get wrapped around something, and then for you to have that kind of verbal, it's okay, we're just going to stop. Like, I'm not correcting you, you're doing okay, but we have to stop for a second. Like, it's not a punishment. You need to wait there. I mean, like, we use weight for things all the time. It's just, it shouldn't, they know the concept of it. So, yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they come Mantrailing, they think of it like a very separate entity to the rest of their dog's life. because it's a sport and it's a dog-leg sport, and we don't encourage too much obedience. We actively say, like, let the dog work, help them, but don't, you're not going, trail on, stop, you're not talking to them. So I think a lot of people find it weird to say wait. Like, most instructors encourage your clients to be like, hey, let's hit the road, just put your normal stop command in, work it out. But people find it really odd. They're like, oh, can I say wait? I'm like, yeah, go mad. Like, the dogs. So it's nice to have that. Also, not approval, but kind of you're confirming what we're already doing, and being that much more experienced because you've been doing it for such a long period of time, and you have mad spaniels. It's good. But yeah, a lot of people, I found, I don't know if other people agree, that if you say to them, like, it's okay to let your dog wait, that I can use normal commands, not just Mantrailing ones.
Yeah, it is, and it's strange because I think I spend a lot of time telling people to stop talking to their dog, because I think most people come into Mantrailing from other disciplines, which are all very handler led. So you give all the commands, you give all the verbal cues. And I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to give up that control to the dog and stay behind them and just let them work. So, but yeah, only speaking to them when it's necessary is very important. It is. And I find having cues that I only use for Mantrailing very helpful as well. Like really starting cues. I'm not sure if you guys do the same, but so your trailing cue should only be used at the beginning of the trail, because if you say trail on, trail on, trail on for 5 minutes, it just loses all meaning. But then other things, like, so if the dog is going off to sniff pee, then I have like a verbal that I only use for the trail to move them from them. So because you don't want to be yanking them off because you pull them off the trail. But if you just say, oh, come on, leave it now, that's not going to register either because they're already engrossed in it. But just having like a brand new word, like you would say trail on, just to encourage them to keep going. Like, this isn't the time to do that now. And I find that really helpful as well, because that's quite clear communication. I think especially with spaniels, they can kind of zone out to us talking to them all the time. Like, all my dogs are whistle trained for recall, because I think they're just sick of my voice or deaf to it when they're out and about. So, but the whistle, they'll turn on the heel and come straight back, because it's that different sound and it's only used for that with them. So I do find that beneficial as well. So having a little toolbox of words that you keep for trailing, I think creates a good line of communication between you and your dog. Yeah.
We had a conversation yesterday when I was with some clients as well about some spaniels might actually need an on and off cue, almost like not just the start of the trail and the end of the trail, because some spaniels are so driven and so motivated to hunt and to find that they trail from the car to the start, and then even when they found the person at the end, they're still trailing back to the car. So we were talking yesterday that for those, like, they could probably do with like an on and off kind of cue. Do you find sort of a lot of dogs are sort of like that when you're teaching and instructing, sort of come out the car sort of ever ready and waiting to go?
Yeah, a lot of the dogs, I mean, sometimes before, like, they're out of the car, they're already, you can see they're checking the area. So we have started to do quite large inventory circles to cover a lot of bases for that, just that they know what's in the area before they're starting, because spaniels, they do like to check. They are checkers. Like, I don't know if you've ever trailed down through a housing estate, they'll go up to every front door on the way down. They love to check. So I do find that helps, because then when you've asked them to trail, as I said, they already know what's in that area, so they shouldn't be going off to look for other things. I think I've gone off track a little bit there. Yes. So with the so at the end of the trail, when the harness comes off, you said that they trailing back to the car as well.
Yeah, so like some dogs are quite motivated and quite driven, and like for some people they follow the sport really to the T, so that the work cue for the dog going on is a harness on or a buff or something going on, and then like the end signal is like the harness off. So I harness on and I harness off, and that's my dog's on and off switch. We're trailing now, I will allow certain behaviours. So when I'm trailing, I would like my dog to ignore other distractor scents and ideally not pee because he's a boy, if I'm talking about my reef. But when he's out of work mode and out of his dress, then I would allow him to sniff other distracting scents and allow him to pee wherever he wants to, walking to and from location. Some dogs and some clients feel that they like sort of have to keep their dogs in their sort of dress, like in their harness or whatever they're doing. Have you noticed some of your clients? So some clients of mine that I don't see regularly come already in the harness and then they put a buff on. And then I've got some people who use a harness for heel work and then a harness for mantrailing and stuff like that. So for those dogs, when we've got sort of, they're doing, even though the harnesses are different, for me, some dogs with higher drive need a bit more of an, that's a definitive start and that's a definitive end. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. So yeah, I have some clients where the dog is always in a harness for safety and they don't like to put a collar on their dog. So they arrive in the car in the harness and they come out on the long line to start, and then they finish and walk back to the car still in this dress. So one thing that I've suggested with that is to bring them out on a different lead. I mean, it is difficult. I mean, if people don't want to do it, then it's tough to change that then. I haven't really had problems with the dogs trailing back to the car because they're still dressed though. So usually, because the reward, the dogs will either play on the way back to the car with a toy, or they'll be taken back to the areas that we've asked them to ignore. So they haven't kind of got that opportunity to keep trailing. But no, I think I found the people that kind of know that that's the for us. Yeah, I haven't. That's not something that I've seen. That's interesting. I'll be looking for that one.
Yeah, so it probably wouldn't be so basically if I took my dog out now, he would pull me equally as hard if he could to the start. So when we're leaving the vehicle, he's already checking and scanning the ground for like human scent and stuff like that. He knows why we're there, like, and he would literally pull me and trail me into the scent article if I allowed him to. But what I want to do from him is I want, if we go, it's talking about that mindset as well. So if I allow him to come out of the car in this high drive arousal state, I don't want him to then drag me to the start. Does that make sense? Because I'm just feeding into that arousal. Like my dog Reef doesn't need a lot. He's like putting an Alka-Seltzer in a bottle of Coke. Like he really doesn't need much sort of winding up. And then if I was to sort of not continue to play with him on the way back, or sort of like you said, use the environment as that part of that reward, then he would, if I have him on the long line, he will then just check all the exits on the way coming back to the car.
Okay.
So that's just sort of like one of the things. And then I've spotted it with a sort of a working lab that I've had today, and like he's just, they're so, some of the dogs are so motivated to do something.
Yeah.
That sort of what you've said as well is then using the environment as part of the reward too, and taking them back to sniff areas of interest and things like that, and sort of, well, that sort of, we use that sort of principle as well in a scent detection sort of form. So if dogs are distracted in an area, say like an open field with birds, we would ask them to do the scent detection, and then we would use the open area with the birds that we take them into and play games with them, so that they do the task, and then we give them that as their part of the reward as well. So it's just sort of looking at different techniques as we're talking, and different things are going to apply to different dogs because they're not all the same, isn't it? And then it's just like brainstorming while we've got each other here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if, like I said about stopping them to like calm them down, like before they've come out the car, or just as they've come out the car, like taking it easy and just having a bit of a stroke. I did actually go through a bit of a thing with Ziggy. He couldn't concentrate on his inventory circle because the visual of the harness on the ground was too distracting for him, and he was dragging me back to the harness, and then I was asking him to trail, and then he was going and peeing because he had missed those points on the inventory circle. So I started to carry the harness and the scent article so that there was no visual of that starting point then. So he's just coming out. We're just doing our inventory circle, and then when we think that you're ready, then we'll show you this is where we're starting from. So that seems to, as that was helpful with that, taking that visual away of the starting point for him.
Yeah, so that's either whether like the equipment's presented, and like I find it loads with the scent article, I have to just remove the scent article from the picture, because as soon as the dog sees the scent article, they obviously understand what they're going to do, and then
we have a dog that comes with us, Emma, I think she's on here actually, her little cocker Jasper. Just the visual of the food pot or the scent article can send him over the top, so we have to be very, very careful about what he sees when he's coming out of the car, because it just creates this frenzied barking, and then that can really affect his starts. So we have to be like sneaky dealers of food and scent articles so that he doesn't see anything, because like I say, just that visual will trigger him, and he'll be running around. I want to start now. I don't want to wear my harness, trying to back out of his harness. He just wants to go. So it's management basically. It's all dogs are so different, and I think that is one of the best and maybe hardest things about Mantrailing, is that it's so unique to that individual dog and that individual handler, and the handler might have expectations of their dog which they can't kind of fulfill yet, or the dog has higher expectations of their handler, and then they get very frustrated when they can't kind of keep up with them. So it's trying to tailor it to the dog. And I mean, like you say, when they're trying to check those exit points, they do pull. Ziggy pulls me, like he only pulls me in that way when we're trailing. He doesn't pull me like that anywhere else. It's just because they're so raring to go, I think. But it's just trying to keep them calm at the starts. But easier said than done.
So we have managed to keep it like almost an hour-ish, which is unheard of. Has anybody got any questions for Rosalie? Well, we have got her undivided attention. Or Rosalie, is there anything that you would like to mention and talk about that we haven't already kind of covered? Because we definitely want people to connect with cool instructors that understand spaniels, because they are, as like you said at the beginning, they're very different to how other breeds work, and a lot of people don't really understand how they trail. I think they just think, oh yeah, they're going fast, so therefore they're working, which isn't the case with the spaniel. It's mainly that their heads fall off at that point, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, is there anything that you as a very experienced instructor and as a spaniel man trailer yourself, is there any like top tips or anything you would like everyone to know?
So I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned over the years trailing with spaniels is that there is a huge difference between excitement and motivation, and being able to know the difference, or having an instructor that can show you the difference between that, I think is really important, because they might have drive, but you need to know what that drive looks like, because for some people, I think because they're so fast and they're so strong, that it's like a fine line between being excited and drive, you know. So having really good knowledge of those kinds of behaviors, I think just try and learn as much as you can about gun dogs and how they would work, and what their origin is. Alex had a really good webinar with you, and she went into a little bit of the history of spaniels, and I think that is, if people can go back and watch that, I think that that's really useful as well, because yeah, it's amazing, it's mind-blowing. But yeah, it's just like I say, because they are so pumped, you don't need to be pumped, or you don't need everyone else around you to be on that level, you know. And I think because when you see a dog and they come out and they're raring to go, everyone else feels like they need to match that energy. But
Oh shit, she's gone. I thought it was me. Technical difficulties, guys. Rosalie has left the chat. We'll see if she jumps back on in a second. But I think what she was talking about was super important. Just because there's high energy from the spaniel doesn't mean the rest of us need to be following it. And actually, Jolene, you said you were training with Sarah. Sarah won't mind just talking about Finn. He's a very high energy spaniel, and it's really important that the trail layer does not engage with him in any way, shape, or form. He comes out the car, he trails, he gets a reward from Sarah, but we do not engage with him. He does not exist to us, because the second you give him any sort of reward, he goes to the moon. He just goes to the moon, and he doesn't function anymore. So I think that's really cool, and I love that kind of the difference between drive and just being insane. It's two different things. Oh, Rosalie's messages. Hold on. Laptop's died. No, she's not going to come back. If anybody has any questions that you want to direct to Rosalie, then please drop one of us a message. You can get us on Facebook or get our private pages. We will get those questions over to Rosalie, and she can answer them in the chat for us. Oh no. We'll see what she'll do. We'll give it 2 minutes. But if anybody got questions, they can chat now, and we can take it to her. Just because we've been chatting over an hour, this is it. We just get into these man training conversations, and there's so much to know. We will put Rosalie's details as well when we upload this video. We'll put all the way you can contact her, but she's Discovery Dogs Man Training. We'll see. And
comments in the chat, so if we do that, that'll give Rosalie a little bit of time, that if she is going to come back on, she'll be able to. But equally, like Catherine said, if we've got sort of these questions and stuff, we can message them to Rosalie and we can chat and discuss with her, and if people have liked it, we can always do a part 2 with Rosalie and sort of fine tune a little bit more, because it's really nice to sort of have this conversation with Rosalie. And I've never met her in person, but everything she does echoes what me and Catherine discuss and what we tell our trailers and what we look at doing with our clients as well. So it's just really nice to hear that from that third person, isn't it, Catherine?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just make sure the Rosalie's implied. It's nice to hear from someone who's actually been doing training longer than we have. I mean, we've been doing about 5 years now, but Rosalie was there at the conception of Mantrailing in the UK, and has really invested in herself. So it's really nice to hear her resonating. Oh, she's on. Resonating the things that we've been speaking about in Spaniel people, and that kind of tailoring it to, there's not one size fits all, especially with Spaniels, and kind of she's back. We were just waffling until you returned about how what you just said really resonates with us and actually fits with what we've kind of been doing. And because you've been mantrailing kind of at the conception of the sport in the UK, and even like the operational stuff in the UK as well, mantrailing is still very, very new, just here in general. So to hear from you that you're doing the things that we've kind of been thinking about doing or are doing with spaniels is really nice, as somebody who's so experienced in the industry, and somebody who's actually, or you are stagnant either. You're always learning. I know you're doing lots of things with Monica, you're working with the INBTI guys, and you're pass on that knowledge to lots of cool people. So it's super exciting, and there's lots of knowledge to learn as a spaniel owner. I think you need to go and find the right people that resonate with you when you have a mad spaniel. It's not saying that instructors can't help you, but some people just get you a little bit more when you've got a spaniel. You need to be that kind of chaos, like that slight screw loop.
Group. Yeah, I think, like you say, always learning, and I don't think you ever stop learning. I mean, every week I see something like that the dog will throw out or the environment will throw out, and it doesn't matter how much you plan when you're mantrailing, because you're in public places most of the time. Something is fresh is going to be, and you've got to adapt to that, like within a millisecond, you know, to support your teams and the dogs. And the dogs just, they adapt so well. That is always a big wow moment for me, because they just go, whoa, that was new, okay, and then they carry on then. But yeah, it's been fantastic to sort of watch mantrailing grow as it has over the years. I know operationally we're still quite behind, especially in South Wales anyway. We don't use it at all, but for the pet side of it, it's fantastic, and the benefits that the dogs and the handlers get from it. I mean, you probably get a lot of comments like, oh my god, my dog is wrecked. And it's like, they've never been tired like this in their life. Okay, brilliant. But it's a good, it's a nice kind of tired, you know. It's not because they've just gone absolutely crazy, like they've had to use their brain, and it's hard work using your brain.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rosalie, for coming on to speak to everybody, despite technical difficulties there at the end. Where can people find you? If people want to come training with you, how do they get in touch? Tell us on the socials.
My Facebook page is Discovery Dogs, Scent Work and Mantrailing. Most of my information is posted on there. I do have an Instagram as well, which is discovery_dogs_Wales. But yeah, most things are posted on Facebook. We run sessions through Nice, Talbot, Swansea and Carmarthenshire too. So we've got quite a broad area, which is fantastic, because we've been expanding a little bit over the last year, and that's been amazing. But yeah, always happy to have a chat with people as well. And I always say, if anyone's stuck on anything and they want to send videos, I'm more than happy to take a look and see if I can offer some kind of advice for you. But yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on. That's it.
It's been
Thank
really
you so
lovely.
much. Yeah.
been really nice to sort of speak to you, and sort of it just kind of affirms that the whole reason why we've created the Mantrailing Spaniels group, really, and the fact that it's sort of more of a community, so that everyone can get the information that they need so that they can sort of implement it with their spaniels. And I know that we've been lucky to have Monica like sort of jump on and sort of be there in the background listening, so that's a really lovely thing. And I'm looking forward to meeting Monica this year as well. We might drop Monica a line and see if she'll do a webinar with us. I'll throw that out now, and maybe all 4 of us can come back and have a chat.
When have you, so Julie, for those that don't know, when have you got Monica over, and Rosie's coming to assist on it as well? Just let people know, because not everybody I think has seen that you've got Monica
kept it under wraps. Yeah, so I've been lucky to be able to get sort of Monica over in September, so she's going to be in the West Midlands in September. And Rosalie's coming up, so we're going to have a really good sort of weekend. And Catherine, you're coming as well, aren't you, for a day or so?
I'm there on Friday, so it would be absolute Spaniel chaos central to see you guys. But yeah, I think the spectator places left, is there still?
Yeah, so there's a couple of spectator places left and stuff, and then obviously it'll be nice to sort of catch up with Monica and Rosalie, and then sort of go from there, and we'll see where plans take us really for 2025, because we're halfway through the year already.
Yeah, super. So if you want to find out more about that seminar, get over to Jolene's stuff on Carter's Pet Services. It's on your book when, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your booking system, and it'd be lovely, because I think you can learn a lot as a spectator just as much as if you were handling. But unfortunately, handle spots went ages ago. So Monica and Rosalie will be there talking more about the INBTI method and how they work as individuals, hopefully tailored towards spaniels as well, if there's any spaniels there. And if you want to get a chance to go trail with Rosalie, then head yourself down to South Wales, go and stalk her. It's always good. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for jumping on. We really appreciate you spending time with us tonight, especially on Saturday evening, to talk all things Spaniel.
Perfect. And we will share some exciting new dates and locations in the Mantrailing Spaniel group for sort of some days that me and Catherine have got planned at the end of the webinar. So just keep an eye on the group for some more dates that we're going to put together for people to come and jump on some more Mantrailing Spaniel days. But yeah, it'd be really good to sort of touch base with Rosalie in September as well, and sort of just all get together.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it.
No, it's going to be really good. Right, thank you very much, guys. I'm glad that I managed to do Zoom by myself so far. So yeah, I hope you've all really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us this evening, and have a great rest of your weekend, and we will hopefully catch you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.